When I started emulating Flight of the Zinger and Hornet Hole on the wavestate, I thought it should be fairly straightforward. Now these hornets have a bit of a sting in the tail, even though they look fairly cute. The original tune set out to convey the idea of angry bees chasing you down. I vaguely remember basing it on an existing wave sequence from the Wavestation SE, and I thought I'd simply substitute it in 3 waves. But having gone through the entire collection of wave sequences from the original, I realised that I was instead inspired by the wave sequence drops, and merely used that as a starting point before adapting it for the tune I was working on. So with that in mind, we'll clear everything and load in the init performance. Let's start by removing any unrequired steps. Now, one of the really useful things about the wavestate editing software is the ability to save and recall the lane information independently of a program or performance. Here I have 16/16, the timing mode is set to tempo, I've set the crossfade value to 0, and I've set the endpoint and the loop point to cover the full 16 steps here. I can quickly save the timing lane and recall it instantly, as I know I'll use this as a starting point many times over. Let's load that timing lane in. We'll change the initial sample to mute guitar. Now let's add some variation with mute guitar 2 and mute guitar 3 to sample steps 2 and 3 to the sample lane. I'm now going to save you the tedium of watching me set all of my individual pitches per step for this pattern, simply by recalling my Zinger pitch lane I made earlier. Next, we're going to find a suitable shape to use for the wave sequence. We'll use exponential down. But as you can hear, it's a little too severe. However, by increasing the offset, we can soften the shape. Hopefully, you can now hear the difference. I want to add some effects. I'll start with a little compression. Then I want BPM delay. Because this is a straight 16th pattern and the sequence should be representing busy little bees, I want to use triplets and dotted notes to create movement. It's not quite busy enough for me yet, so I'll change the tempo. Now, I quite like that as a starting point, so I'll save this layer to bring in as a starting point for my next layer. I want to use a very similar patch to add interest and variation to the wave sequence playing in layer A. Therefore, I'm going to add a few more steps to the sample layer. These will also be plucks, but I'll add different sounds in, such as banjo and mandolin instead. Next, I'll add some similar effects, compression again, and here I'm using quarter dotted and quarter triad delays. This again is a way to complement the straight 16ths and add more movement to the sequence. And talking of movement, I want the pan to be modulated by a synced LFO. Layer C. I don't need anything too complicated here, it just needs to complement the B sequence. I'm going to use an existing choir program for this layer. All I need to do here is choose one from the extensive library that comes with the wavestate. Before adding the drums, this will be a good time to set the key zones. C2 will play the drum part. The choir will cover the rest of the keyboard, and the busy bee wave sequences on layer 1 and 2 will play the rest of the octave, from C#2 to C3. So we'll have a listen and see where we are. Finally, layer D. This will play the deep drum pattern. I'll start with the 3 steps that make up the first 2 bars of this pattern. Then I'll copy the timing steps as a basis for the next 2 bars. I'll add a few more steps for the 4th bar of drums. I'll add more pitch and shape steps to refine the pattern. The last bit of the drum layer is to use the sequence lane to modulate the pan position. Then I'll set the intensity accordingly to make sure the pan movement isn't too severe. Then the only thing left to do is to listen to the whole performance. And that's how I'd go about emulating the Zinger tune from Donkey Kong Country Diddy's Conquest.